Well, yes, that is what we're focusing on next, the submissions of the ministerial nominee, Mr. Geoffrey Onyema. We've got Mr. Adetola Uduboje here with us. He's the president of Nigerian Union in South Africa. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, from his explanations there, it appears, turns out that a lot of engagements transpired between himself, South African authorities, even the Nigerian Union. Yes. How come all of this is not yielding fruit? First of all, give us a background to some of those meetings that transpired between themselves and even your union.
When, in 2015, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Interior came to South Africa because of the violent attack on foreign nationals. And then we had a series of meetings with them, closed door, and the one with Nigerians, where we express our problems to them. But the minister quickly tried to meet, they met with their counterparts there, and then came out with a resolution that early warning unit will be set up to actually bridge the gap between us and the police. So because the early warning unit composition will be the Nigerian embassies and the consulate, then the South African Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that is international relations, then the Nigerian Union. So we will be able to meet at every point in time. Instead of being reactive, we will now be proactive to say, okay, because some of these things, the signs are there before it happens when it comes to a violent attack, except this random killing that you don't know when it will happen. As at that time, it's more or less like a xenophobic attack that you can actually sense it before it happens. So, and then that did not happen up to now. The early warning unit did not materialize. And I believe
why wasn't it done?
I think it's between the government to government. The last year I met the minister. I came to meet the minister in Abuja. They were still discussing on the MOU. There is this back and forth between Nigerian government and South African government. And so, which I believe that if that early warning unit mechanism is actually in place, some of these killings, some of these attacks might have been avoided.
But one of the, I'm curious to understand, most certainly you are not comfortable with the fact that the early warning unit hasn't been set up.
Yes.
And do you think that is complicit in the continued killing of Nigerians?
I so much believe that if that early warning unit has been set up, it will have actually helped to reduce some of the attacks and killing, because the engagement will have started, and then solutions will have been implemented.
Would have comprised of who and who, including
it to be on the side of the government of South Africa. They come with international relations, the police, and the home affairs. Then on the side of Nigeria is going to be Nigerian government. It's the consulate in Johannesburg and Pretoria, and on the side of us is Nigerian Union, so that we'll be able to meet periodically to actually help.
One of the things that the former minister said, at this screening was that the South African government is not complicit in all of the things that are happening. And if this early warning unit is taking this long, and the former minister says that the South African government is not complicit, how do you marry the two?
Well, it's very difficult because we are not engaging with the South African authority. It is the minister that is engaging with them. So at that level, he's giving a kind of what he felt is actually the truth. But at our own level, we will say, like I always say, that no matter what is done, immediately there is no result. We term it as nothing has been done. Because the president of South Africa, when he came to Nigeria, spoke very, very hard on this matter to say that his act of criminality is not going to accept it. But little or nothing has been done to actually unravel it. It's part of it, because if you keep saying something, like even our government also, like I said the last time, that if we continue the way we are doing now, rhetorics, we are just talking. We are not taking any actions.
But the Senate president did say yesterday as well that, well, they frowned at it, and that the Senate is going to write to South African Parliament that they requested the names of those Nigerians who have been killed, and that they were going to write. That's something that is good to do, isn't it?
I commended that even the last time when he spoke about it, but I will still stand on my my point that
Which is
there should be a step forward. That letter should go out. Something has to be done. You know, we are still on speaking. Yes, they are compiling the names. I'll give you some instances. We are still on talking level now. Nothing concrete has been done. When the early warning unit suggestion came, we were very happy and delighted that this thing is going to help us at this particular point in time. 2015, this 2019, it has not been done. And so that's why I'm saying that we should not continue with the rhetoric. We should not continue with talking now. What we need to do is to move a little bit step forward, like the new administration saying next level. Let's go to the next level in this case, by making sure that the letter is written, something is done.
It's a little troubling when one sees that, I mean, you know, Nigerians are being killed in a foreign land, and it seems, just as you have said, that it's only those who feel it that knows it, those who feel it that know it. One of the things that the former minister also said is that he talked about trust deficit between the security system in South Africa and Nigerians. Help me understand that.
It's not like the Nigerian Union itself.
Yes. There is this high level of trust deficit between our organization and police at the lowest level. A situation whereby you see some majorly Nigerian criminals getting off the hook very easily, and some of them they are actually working with some of these police at the local level, at the lowest level. I'll give you an instance. A situation whereby you walk into the station, the local station, to report a crime or to tell them that there is this thing that is happening in a particular area. For example, there is a particular area in Johannesburg. It's an open field, it's an open space where people, not only Nigerians, but where people sell drugs there. They peddle drugs there. And it's an open place, and you see police van moving around there. And so now, how do you now go to the same police to actually report these criminals? We had an incident wherein we went to a police station to actually report certain crime and then want to work with the police. Then, before you know it, you start receiving calls from some of those criminals. So how did they get the information? Because I didn't tell anybody. And then I trust those people I went with. So that level of trust deficit has been there from time.
So was it the Nigerian Union that spoke to the minister about it?
Yes. We spoke to him about it. Even the last year, I still spoke about it also. And that's one of the reasons, you know, the minister was very, I need to thank him. He was very proactive to actually come up with, okay, if that is the case, let us actually take it to the highest level. Because at that level, there cannot be any information you give. They give order for it to be unraveled. But still going back to what I said, we are still talking. MOU is still going back and forth. So I believe that bringing back the minister will help, because he will make sure this thing is done as soon as possible, because more lives have been lost.
Now, earlier on you said some Nigerian criminals. Yes. I remember you said that. So yes. Is there a possibility, now definitely we condemn these acts, that they're not good, having Nigerians out there who are going through hard times. But then is it possible that the actions of some Nigerians in South Africa might be responsible for what we're seeing right now? Is that a possibility?
There is possibility. And that's one of the reasons why we have been asking since that 2015 to say that whoever commits crime, whether Nigerian or non-Nigerian, there should be consequence. When there are no consequences, that is why we are having reprisal, a kind of a revenge attack between Nigerians and Nigerians, and South Africans and Nigerians. And so when police are actually doing their job, all these attacks and killing, it will reduce and it will get to a stage where it will be difficult. There are two ways to stop criminals. You don't negotiate with criminals and talk to them and preach to them. It's either you make it difficult for them to perpetrate the crime, or when they perpetrate the crime, they face the consequence.
The other nationals face the same thing.
They face other nationals in Africans. They face the same thing. They face the same thing.
Is it as pronounced as this, you think?
It's not as pronounced as that of Nigeria because they are actually handling their own very well. You know, a situation whereby a Mozambican was actually dragged in a police van, and before you know it, those police are in prison now. A situation whereby you kill a Somalian, and before you know it, the culprits are arrested, and then that is this a kind of a concerted effort between their government and their civil society, their civil organization there to make sure they stop this thing.
Well, how would you assess the performance of the Nigerian High Commission there?
As we speak now, the High Commission is silent. If you want to, there is nothing. Of all these things that have been happening, I don't know what they are doing. Like I always say, that it is when we see a change that we can commend that you have done something. But of all the things that have been happening, the Nigerian High Commission has been very quiet. We have an ambassador there, and he has gotten his letter of credence. So there is nothing stopping him.
Why has he been speaking on this matter?
Yeah, I've not heard anything about it. Nothing. And there is no way he will speak, and I will not know. The person that have been speaking is the Consul General.
Why is that the case?
I don't really know what is happening there. Maybe it's part of their line of duty that Consul General speaks, but it was not like that before.
Could it be what you said the other time that's making their job difficult, that, you know, these Nigerian criminals, the Nigerians who are criminals in South Africa, could it be, because you know that the Consul General has been talking about that of late, it's difficult to swallow, but could that be the reason why he's not been talking?
When you are a leader, you are actually a leader for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you cannot say because some few Nigerians are engaging in crime, then you keep quiet and every other person have been exposed to danger.
Tayo Faniran was not involved in crime.
Thank you.
Was he?
Was not.
Mrs. Ndubisichukwu was not involved in crime. Was she?
There is nothing to prove that she's involved in crime. The 17-year-old boy that was shot there 2 weeks ago, there's nothing to prove that he was involved in crime. And so now, there are criminal South Africans, even in Nigeria. There are foreigners in our prisons. And that's to tell you that some people left their country to come and perpetrate crime in Nigeria. But that should not be a reason why a sitting ambassador or consul general will jump into conclusion and say because Nigerians are criminals, then I cannot do anything.
We have issues in Nigeria. We have security issues in Nigeria, and then to a large extent, you know, criminal activities have been, you know, nipped in the bud in our country to, I mean, a reasonable extent. We haven't heard of late a situation where some country is shouting in Nigeria that, you know, their nationals are being killed or are suffering and stuff like that. Do you think there is a history to that situation in South Africa, especially concerning Nigerians?
You see, I'm going to approach it this way. The reason why any national will not at any point in time shout that they have been maltreated in Nigeria is because the police, as well as the locals, the citizens, they make it their obligation to protect foreigners. And when you go to other countries, say South Africa that we are discussing, there is this apathy on the side of the law enforcement to investigate and prosecute those who perpetrate crime against foreign nationals, most especially of African descent. And so now Nigeria is now at the center stage because there is nothing so much that we can pin, there's nothing we can pin our hand on that have been done to make them actually do this investigation. Let me give you an instance. The guy that was actually harassed, Tayo Faniran, he was very bold to record. A lot of people We are not talking about that anymore. If not because of the recording, we won't even discuss it. That is happening to Nigerians on a daily basis. But now what we are talking about is the killing. Because when you are harassed, you can still seek redress. But when you are dead, there's nothing you can do. Now, the guy was very bold to make that video. But what has been done so far?
Do you think he should press
rhetorics?
Do you think he should press charges?
Yes, he has to. We cannot. You see, when you go to the when you take a first step of making sure that you have convincing evidence, then there is no need for you to back down, because it's not only now for you alone. It's now for other people who are voiceless. He has a voice. He's a celebrity, he's a star. Assuming it's somebody on the street that make that video and so on, the thing may not have actually been pronounced as it is. So he needs to press charges to make sure. It's not to take revenge, like he said, but it is just to serve as a deterrent. There should be consequence for every wrong thing that have been done.
He's concerned about the policemen losing their jobs.
If the policemen have to lose their job for doing something wrong, I don't think there's anything. That should not be his own concern in the first place, because he doesn't know what the law is going to mete out to those people. His concern should be that I seek redress and then avoid it to happen to other Nigerians.
Now, perhaps this speaks about the general perception of Nigerians in South Africa. So I'd like you to take us to the streets of South Africa briefly and help us understand how South Africans see Nigerians. Because I think in handling this case, we should also see how Nigerians are perceived by the host country, for example. So how do South Africans see the average Nigerian, beg your pardon, in South Africa?
It's a mixed feeling. The perception of Nigerians in South Africa is not actually good, because an average South African have been brainwashed to believe that an average Nigerian came to take his job, to actually take his space. One thing is just that our people always flourish wherever they go to.
Is that a crime?
It's not a crime, but it's a threat to the survivor of the locals. In a situation whereby you are actually doing a business and a Nigerian will come and do it better. So they don't have spirit of competition. They don't have skill to compete with you. Let me give you an instance. Uber and Taxify is in Nigeria. When it came to South Africa, the meter taxi drivers, they were actually killing and burning down the Uber and Taxify driver. You can check on the internet. To the extent that if you go to the train station, the security will not even allow some Taxify to come in, because they don't want that thing to happen in their premises. There is no skill or spirit of competition among South Africans. And so when they see you flourishing, most times, you become target. Yes, like we said, which I'm not going to miss word about it. The activities of few that are actually very loud also. Nigerians were very, very loud. We're very assertive in our expression. Now, it's actually fueling that as well. Thirdly, the activities of few Nigerians that are engaging in one crime or the other is not only drugs, because we talk about drugs because you can see it. What about those who are engaging in cyber fraud as well? And so now, that is actually...
I don't know what you mean by, because you have other nationals in this country who are not just loud, but they make it almost what people say, all the money. They've been in this country for decades.
Yes. They're
controlling heavy funds and things like that. Nobody's killing anybody here. So the law is the law. So
we're a different set of people.
I don't think there's any excuse.
Does that mean that the South African system, the legal system or security system is weak?
I wouldn't say it's weak. You know why I would say it's weak? It's because most of the crime that are committed is usually unraveled in South Africa. They have a very, very good security system. But there is this apathy on the side of when it comes to foreign nationals, most especially Nigerians.
Why?
Well, we will still go back to our own government that's supposed to protect us. It was not like this before. When you have representatives that always look for excuses, you have a government representative that always look for excuses of not protecting the lives and property of his citizens, then all this kind of thing will happen. Because when something happens within 24 hours, I don't know the kind of machinery they are using. Within 24 hours, they will come out and say, "Oh, this person was killed. Maxwell was killed just because he involved in drugs. is gang-related, is cardiac arrest, and so on, without allowing the investigation to be carried out.
Sorry, Tayo Fanino case is just one example, and you have said that he has to press charges. Do you have a chronicle of other people like that whose cases can be joined to strengthen the case so that redress can be sought in court?
Two things. Some of them have been bullied, even by our own people. Bullied in the sense that, oh, these people will attack you, you're in their country. Think about, you can see what Tayo was even saying, my career, my this, my that. If you are not free and you cannot move around, your career will suffer. So you need to liberate yourself. Now, some have been they have put fear in them.
Why do they do that?
I don't really know what they want to gain in doing such a thing. And, a lot of time, even those of us that speak out, most especially somebody like me, a lot of time I've been threatened that you don't talk about these things. It's causing problem between South Africa and Nigeria. You don't do this. Even some people, they look at me as it's just a troublemaker and so on, because I cannot keep quiet. I have the confidence of the people as their leader to make sure that I cannot be bullied to a corner not to speak about this thing, because it boils down on the welfare of people. Secondly, is the issue of lack of evidence. You meet a police on the road, he harass you, and immediately you are supposed to go to the police station and open a case. You didn't do that. Then you come after 2-3 months. It becomes your word against his word, which will not hold water.
So give us an update then. What do you know of the latest about the killing of Mrs. Ndubisichukwu?
Nothing to report about. It's still the same way.
In spite of all that has been said that they were going to do?
I said it here in the studio. I think it was you or who asked me that, do you think this thing will stop the killing or they will get to the... I said that if we continue the same way we have been doing, it will just be a statistics. So it's becoming a statistics now. The IO is on leave. He has come back. We have watched the video. Nothing
Isn't this
suspicious.
Statistics strong enough to make a strong case in a South African court?
That is what we are trying to do. You cannot use it in a South African court, because in a South African court you need to treat these cases individually. This is Mrs. Ndubisi's case. You try to get it to court. This is Maxwell case. You get it to court. This is Nonso case. That small boy. We get it to court. But a situation whereby you even see some sycophants, I'll call them sycophants, coming up to conclude and say, this is just a victim of crime. How do you know it's just a victim of crime? Without investigation. The police must investigate. Yes, you may say that area, Johannesburg, is a crime-prone area and so on and so forth. Some of us have been
what about
the
hotel where she was? Is it also that porous with security?
I doubt that. That's why I said here that it's an organized thing.
And briefly, Mr. Olubajo, we understand that Nigeria stands more to gain working together with South Africa than having all of these skirmishes here and there. I mean, I think we have more to gain working together, like I said. So a lot of solutions have been proffered. We had the former minister saying that there's meant to be a hotline between the government.
Good.
He talked about the MOU that is still yet to be signed. So while we're waiting on these solutions, what can be done in the shortest possible time to ensure that at least we maintain decorum? Briefly.
The president of the country, which is President Muhammadu Buhari, should be fed with the real situation. And he needs to pick a call and call his counterpart to make sure that that's a short-time solution. When president to president are speaking about an issue now, something will be done.
All right. That's a good place to anchor. Mr. Adetola Olubajo is the president of Nigerian Union in South Africa. Thank you for coming on, and all the best.
Thank you very much.
All right. So we're back in a moment. Stay with us.